We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider Rapid Reactions edition. Well, semi-rapid tonight, presented by Modelo. Carolina falls to Duke 82-69 in the Smith Center this evening. Jones and Adam here with you. You'll hear and see Hubert Davis coming up in just a few minutes. Talk to Coach after this one. Adam, this game was decided in the final 12 or 13 minutes of the game. The Tar Heels led by 6, and then Duke outscored them 29-10 the rest of the way. Carolina's inability to get into the paint offensively and Duke's ability to get out and run after what felt not a bunch of turnovers, what felt like poor shot selection by Carolina, which turned into fast break opportunities, or even if they weren't classified as fast break points, maybe easier opportunities for Duke. Felt like that was the difference down the stretch.
Yeah, the middle 20 minutes, Carolina can't be much better than that against a very good team. But the outer 20 were problematic, especially that last 10 when Duke showed why they have been one of the best 2 teams in the country the entire season, and they were during that part of the game.
Duke's size was the difference in this game in every way. Blocking shots, not allowing Carolina to get inside, and I thought especially when Caleb Foster, a 6'5" guard, and Malik Brown, the Syracuse transfer, who is so versatile defensively, felt like when they came in, not that their size was unusual because Duke has great size regardless, but it felt like their size and their defensive ability kind of led Duke the rest of the way.
And their depth. I mean, that's one thing they have that they haven't had in past years. That's the kind of troubling difference about this Duke team. It's not just these young guys who might have wilted a little. They were able to just look further down the bench, go a little further down, bring in players who contributed, and ultimately were decisive.
Adam, I mean, it was just, R.J. Davis had 20 points, but he didn't score for the last 17 and a half minutes. Vinal Lubin, I thought, was very effective when he was in the game, but it just did not come easily for Carolina in the final 10 to 12 minutes. Also, Cooper Flagg, only played 9 minutes in the first half with 3 fouls, but he finished this game with 3 fouls. So Carolina's inability, again, I think it goes back to the same problem of not being able to get inside, but their inability to get him a 4th foul at any point also impactful.
And I think everyone knows, that is something the Tar Heels wanted to do. They obviously were not successful. I think you also have to acknowledge the officials likewise knew that he had 3 fouls, and it was going to take some sort of assault to get the 4th. I'm not saying they didn't call one. I'm saying Carolina would have had to attack him extremely hard to get that whistle blown. The offense, I think it really shows how one-on-one it was with the 8 assists on 25 field goals. Carolina was basically getting baskets by clearing out and making really tough shots. There wasn't a lot of other execution that was leading to offense. It was very, only 2 guys in double figures. RJ had the 20, and then Vinal Lubin eventually got to 11. So it was a tough night to score because Duke's good on defense.
Yeah, again, I think that had a lot to do with Duke's length and size that caused a lot of that trouble. Okay, let's get to our conversation. I spoke with Coach Davis after the game. We'll get to that. Out of that, we'll come back and look a little forward here for the Heels as they move on to the ACC tournament. But first, let's hear from Coach Davis after Duke gets the win here on the Rapid Reactions edition of the Carolina Insider. We are inside the Continental Tire Coach's Corner after Duke pulls away from the Tar Heels at the end. Final score 82-69. Coach, your team led by 9 with 12:48 to go. Duke outscored the Tar Heels 29-10 the rest of the game. What changed in your mind in those final 13 or so minutes?
Well, I felt like there was a stretch, not up 9. I think we were up 6. Mm-hmm. And, we got some tough shots and them into transition, and I really believe that was a huge stretch for us. You said we're up by 9. To keep it there, to extend the lead, we weren't able to do it, and we just felt like our shot selection during those times wasn't as best as it could have been. and it really led them out in transition where they were able to score. Also, Malik Brown, I thought, was huge. Like, he's defensively, at the 5, being able to switch everything. He can guard on the perimeter, guard in the post. He can get steals. I think that stunted us offensively. And then I don't know how many threes he's hit on the year.
Made 2 this year, made 2 tonight.
And made 2 tonight. And I think it's the same thing when he was at Syracuse last year. He made 2 against us in the first half. And so those things really hurt us.
Yeah, if I said 9, I misspoke. Carolina's largest lead was 7, and they did lead by 6, as Coach alluded to when that big run by Duke occurred after that. Coach, Flagg had 3 fouls in the first half, didn't pick up another one the rest of the game. Did you feel like, were you trying to go at him? Were you trying to get him out of the game and it just didn't work out, or how did that play out in your mind?
No, I thought offensively we were successful when we went into the lane. Even if we weren't able to score, just playing off 2 feet just drew in the defense and being able to pass it out. I felt like in the first half we were getting those type of shots from the perimeter and around the basket. Beginning second half, we were getting to the basket. And so it wasn't a concerted effort to try to get him into foul trouble, but I felt like at times we did a good job of attacking the basket, and we weren't able to finish and weren't able to draw any fouls.
Drake Powell felt like he was impactful again tonight. What did you see from your freshman and his play in obviously a big-time game this evening?
Yeah, just his ball pressure, his energy. He does so much for us out there on the floor. His ability to get deflections and steals. For most of the game, I thought we were really good at that. I thought our pressure bothered them. It had to be a season high for them of 14 turnovers, and it was because of our pressure and speeding them up, and just weren't able to do it on the latter part of the second half. But I was really proud of the effort and the way that Drake played.
Coach, obviously ACC tournament is still to come, but there's been a ton of talk about your team and the metrics and the NCAA tournament and all these different things. These last 7 games, even though you didn't get the result you wanted tonight, it seems like that team is an NCAA tournament team. Would you agree with that?
Well, there's just no question. In combination with the strength of schedule we played in non-conference and in conference in terms of the top teams in the ACC, and playing all of them on the road with the exception of Duke here at home, and we played them at their place. I think we're 5th in the ACC, and to win 13 games and to overall already have won 20 games, I'm just really proud of this group.
I meant to ask you this earlier. I apologize. RJ didn't have a bucket for the final 17 and a half minutes after he was obviously playing really well. But I know he was a little slow when he went over the bench and saw Doug. But what else was happening? What did they do, or what wasn't happening for him in that final couple minutes?
Well, they're taking the ball out of his hands. Anytime any ball screen, they were putting 2 on the ball and making other guys make plays. And then when Brown came in the game, they could switch off to him. He's 6'10", and it's very difficult to be able to get a shot and get around him. And RJ was playing a lot of minutes and doing, he's human. I know he has had an extraordinary career, but he is human. He does get tired, and I think, Duke is a big team. They're physical, and, I think at times RJ was tired, but I couldn't take him out. He was the one guy that was really scoring consistently for us.
Last thing, Coach, you talk about how your team responds all the time. Felt like Carolina really emptied the tank tonight. The effort, there's no question about. How do you try and kind of build that back up as you go to an important week in Charlotte coming up?
Yeah, I appreciate you noticing the effort there. And I told the guys after the game that all year long they have reacted and responded. All year long they have stayed the course and stayed connected. So that's what we'll do for the ACC tournament. So we're really excited to get to Charlotte. I think we're playing on Wednesday.
Correct.
And we'll be prepared and ready to go.
Heels will play either Notre Dame or Pittsburgh on Wednesday at 2:30. Dave, frustrating result for the Heels, who played hard tonight but just came up short. 82-69 the final. That's Coach Davis in the Continental Tire Coach's Corner. So as you heard Coach and I talk about, it is now Wednesday at 2:30. Carolina will be the 5 seed in the ACC tournament. Heels will play either Notre Dame or Pittsburgh in the second round of the event. Those two teams will play one another on Tuesday before then meeting up with the Tar Heels on Wednesday. The winner of that game faces Wake Forest, who ends up kind of backing its way into the 4 seed, even though the Deacs did win today to beat Georgia Tech and had both Carolina and SMU lose to be able to gather that 4 seed, because those 3 teams actually finished in a tie for 4th, but the Deacs get the tiebreaker in that 3-team kind of mini tournament. So, Adam, Heels go to Charlotte. I think they continue. This loss does not make me feel any differently about that. I do think Carolina is playing much better, but they need to win some games. And we can talk NCAAs in a second, but they need to win some games, and their first opportunity will be Wednesday.
Well, and we both were walking through the Carolina locker room, and it feels like the Tar Heels emptied the tank tonight. So it's going to take you've got a couple days to pull it back together for then what are going to be some very important games in Charlotte against a couple teams that are equally as hungry as you probably. There's going to be some work done over the next couple of days to get Carolina back to the level they played at tonight, because I do think they put a lot into that game.
And Adam, last thing, I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of discussion about Carolina's NCAA tournament possibilities. I'm going to guess they're going to be talked about a lot here over the next couple of games or a couple of days as we go through conference tournaments. It comes down to me, and you heard I asked Coach Davis about it. Is this strictly a metric conversation because the Tar Heels are 1-11 in quad 1 games, and obviously that is not good? Or is there some nuance that is put into that discussion, which, in my opinion, the nuance is twofold. One, obviously the Tar Heels are playing well enough right now to compete in that event. And secondly, and you and I have talked about this before, all quad 1s are not created the same. And I do think Carolina has not just played 12 quad 1 games. A large majority of those were against the very top of the top. Duke, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Michigan State. I think all 5 of those teams, of which 6 of those games that Carolina played, they will all be 1 or 2 seeds in the NCAA tournament. Carolina got 1 of those games at home. They did not get a lot of quad 1 opportunities that were, hey, you're playing the 75th ranked team on the road, or whatever the cutoff is for quads. That they were playing a lot of very good teams, mostly on the road and in neutral sites. So I do think there's a little nuance there. Whether or not that matters, we'll have to wait and see.
It's going to be really frustrating over the next 24 or 48 hours to see people say, aha, see, I told you Carolina's not very good. Look at their numbers. If you watch the game, Carolina is clearly a better team than they were. They have clearly improved. If this same Carolina team had played some of those games that are so hurtful right now, they would have won that game. But they haven't, and that's why now everything goes into the hands of 11 complete strangers and 1 frequent pod guest to see what their fate is. But in order to have any chance at having a fate, you have to win 2 games in Charlotte. Have to.
Adam, before we go, it is worth mentioning this is R.J. Davis's last game as a Tar Heel in the Smith Center, and an emotional night for him, as you would expect, and he balled out. I mean, he had 20 points. I do think, obviously, the last 17 minutes or so didn't go the way that he wanted, but there was some cramping issues, and Duke, there was some cramping and some clamping issues because Duke really clamped down on him. But what a career it's been for R.J. Davis in Chapel Hill. Again, not finished, but finished in the Smith Center.
Not sure we're going to see another one like him, and I'm glad he got the ovation that you see right there as he walked out to center court, because we may not have another Tar Heel that we were able to follow for 5 years like we did him, who writes his name all over both the Carolina record book and the ACC record book. It was on its way to being a storybook senior day because he made some incredibly tough shots over some really tall Duke defenders. There was a moment there where you thought, I think he might carry the Heels to a win, but just couldn't quite do it through no fault of his own.
Yep. RJ Davis, though, is going to, again, story's not completely written, but likely going to be done as the second leading scorer in Carolina basketball history, and primarily because a bunch of these shots like you're seeing right here, and had a really nice performance this evening for the Heels.
I mean, look at the degree of difficulty on those shots. That really tells the story of the night. None of those were open.
Yeah.
And Carolina didn't get hardly any open, and that's why they weren't able to score consistently.
So, 82-69, the final. That'll do it for us. This is our last Rapid Reactions pod of the year. Of course, the normal or the more consistent Carolina Insider, we're with you. We never stop. It is all the time. So we'll be back with you with the next episode of the audio version of the podcast on Tuesday. We do have a Hubert Davis Live Monday night at 7 o'clock. And Carolina's next action is Wednesday at 2:30 in Charlotte as the 5 seed is part of the ACC tournament. But for tonight, Duke gets the win over the Tar Heels 82-69. And that'll do it for us on the latest and last of the season Rapid Reactions edition of the Carolina Insider presented by Modelo.